Hey gang, back with another deck build. I think this one worked pretty well. I made some tweaks to it that I haven't played with it yet, so we'll talk through those. But I've talked about Syr Vondum quite a bit. So his shtick is whenever another creature you control dies, you put it or is put into exile, you put a +1/+1 counter on him when he has 4 or more power. You could and he dies, or is put into exile. You can destroy up to one other target non-land permanent. So he gets pumped real big. It's kind of a ward, because as soon as he's more than 4, if someone kills him, you'll kill one of their things. You can also blink him in and out once he gets to 4 and like targeted removal stuff, so we'll talk through all of that. First up, let's talk a bit of ramp. So, some just mana rocks, right? And I like the Starfield Shepherd. You warp them in, you search a library, you bring them in later, so you can get a plains or a creature card with mana value 1 or less. Right? So if you need a creature to sack, you can bring them in. I don't think I have very many ones, so I think I have 2 of them just in case. But otherwise, it's just a tutor for a plains card that you can warp in, which is nice early in the game. And then the Horizon Stone. I think this is super underplayed. I did a video about this earlier, but you're going to be holding mana quite often to protect Syr Vondum initially. And so if you're doing that at the end of the person's turn, right before your turn, you can tap your land, store it, and use it. Right? So I think this is kind of mandatory for blue decks or any deck where you're consistently holding mana. So let's talk about holding mana. Where's my protection stack? Please stand by. Your girl is important to us. Nope, that's recursion. Okay. So we'll look at the protection stack now. Legendary enchantment background. Whenever your commander creatures you own have, whenever this creature attacks, if it attacks an opponent with no, if you're attacking the guy with the most life, basically, put a +1/+1 counter on your commander. So remember, we want to get him to 4. So if we can attack the person with the most life, early on, he's a 2 mana dude. You might be able to attack people that don't have creatures out yet. You get a +1/+1. It also gives him Death Touch and Indestructible. So they're unlikely to try and block him because they'll lose their creature before he's 4. If they do block him, he has Death Touch. He kills whatever they blocked him with, and then if he dies, you can use his ability to kill one of their other creatures, right? So if they block you with something, you can destroy their commander. But also gains him indestructible. So now it's Death Touch and it can't kill him. So good card. This guy is going to pump him quick because whenever you cast a white spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on a legendary creature. Whenever you cast a black spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on a legendary creature. A lot of multicolored spells in this deck, so you do both, right? He would gain Vigilance and Menace. Noble Heritage is a crazy card. I didn't realize how crazy until I watched a episode of Commander at Home. But if you get this out before your commander, when a commander enters, you have when he enters the battlefield and at the beginning of your upkeep, each player, which includes you, can put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature they control. So you're obviously going to put 2 +1/+1 counters on Syr Vondum. For every opponent who does, you gain protection from them from that player to the end of your next turn. So they can't cast spells on you. Their creatures won't damage you. Their creatures will damage your creatures. So that's one thing to be aware of. So you just let all their creatures through. General's Enforcer, your legendary humans you control, which he is a human, have indestructible. Great. Also, you can exile a target card from graveyard. If it was a creature card, you can create a human soldier, which will come up in a minute because we have a lot of sack outlets. A little bit of ward. It's one of the complaints that my son had when he played this deck was that there was no way to win. Like you pump up Syr Vondum, and as long as people could block him, it didn't matter. So in this case, he's an assassin, can't be blocked, right? So you equip him, and he's a 20/20, swing for 20, can't be blocked, win the game. Same thing. Legendary creatures you control have +2/+1, have ward 1. Non-legendaries all get +1/+1 as an added bonus. Oh look, a card we've talked about quite often. Exile your creature. So when he goes into exile, he fires off his his ability. If the gift wasn't promised, which you wouldn't on if you're exiling your own dude, you return him to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. So maybe you can bring him back and he'll still be a 4/4, right? So that's that. We're going to go across the top now. Sort of the sack outlet, right? So if someone targets him and is able to kill him, you can sack him instead to benefit from it, right? So he's dying anyways, might as well sack him, target, kill somebody's thing, and draw a card. Be able to surveil. There's a lot of dorks that we're going to be able to kill and do stuff with, so that's why these are here. Sacrifice an artifact or a creature. You can draw 2 cards and create a treasure token. There's lots of artifacts that are going to be created as well. Sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. Menace, sacrifice another creature, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Vampiric Rites, gain a life, draw a card when you sack a creature. Right? So there's a little bit of life gain in here too. I think this deck needs to be tweaked a little more because it's got too many ideas going on, but we can talk about that at the end. So when she enters the battlefield, create a food token. So we need tokens. Whenever you create a token, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature other than her, right? So all these tokens we were just talked about creating, we can pump up Syr Vondum with them. Cathar's Crusade, expensive card, giant math problem waiting to happen. But whenever a creature enters, you get a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Really, we're interested in pumping Syr Vondum, so that's why there's so many token creations in here. When Unshakable Tail enters battlefield, and at the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 1. Whenever one or more creature cards are put in a graveyard from your library, investigate. We have a couple of mobilized cards in here, so you'll be able to investigate, which create a clue token. Whenever you create a clue token, you get to pump something, right? We want to be able to sacrifice clue tokens for some other stuff. Sacrifice a clue, return this to you from the graveyard. So you'll always have this card in your hand, available to you. Whenever one or more creatures deal combat to create a treasure token, another token we just created. And then we also get to manifest the top card of that player's library. So we can steal their card, create a token. Whenever we create a token, we pump Syr Vondum. There's a lot going on in this deck. Whenever a creature token leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, remove 2, create 2 flying creatures. So if you're having trouble getting through, you can pump a bunch of creatures and then pull a bunch of, create a bunch of flying tokens. Whenever you gain life, she gets a +1/+1. When she dies, you put X +1/+1 counters on every legendary creature where her power was X. So you can massively pump Syr Vondum. You could kill her on purpose, pump Syr Vondum, give them the assassin's thing, and hit everybody, right? There's a lot of sort of win cons in here that are a little complicated, but there's a lot of options. Whenever you attack, you can pay a life to create a treasure token. So it depends. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Maybe she's on the field and you want your tokens. Maybe you don't. It's all good. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands than you, create a treasure. So just really, that should probably be in the ramp section, or in the card draw section. You can give somebody a treasure and draw a card. When this guy enters, you can sacrifice something. If you do, you create a number of treasure tokens equal to that creature's power. So if you're hurting for mana and you've got one of these, where'd she go? Got her on the field and she's pumped, you could create 20 tokens, 20 mana, put 20 counters on all your legendary creatures. There's just, again, a lot going on with this deck. And I'm doing this review because I'm about to take it apart because I want to build a deck for my son for Christmas, but I love you, Kyle. You're getting a good deck out of this. Sacrifice X artifacts, so then you can sack all those artifacts you just created and pull something back from the graveyard. Speaking of pulling back from the graveyard, we've got a little bit of recursion. I think this is recursion. Oh, this might be the bipolar column. Let's see. Let's go through it anyways. When he dies, you create squirrel tokens where X is his power. So if you could pump this guy up, you can create a bunch of tokens. And there's a lot of pump in here, right? So whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on her. When she dies, create vampires based on her power. Same thing, but they have lifelink, so cool. Commander powers have, whenever you attack a player, it creates a token. So this is the token pile. At the beginning of each end step, create X 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying, where X is the number of tokens you created this turn. Adelan is whenever you attack, for each opponent, you create a 1/1 white human creature token, and her power is based on the number of creatures you control. So the wider your board is, the bigger she attacks. Whenever you attack with this guy and or your commander, for each opponent, create more tokens that are tapped and attacking. You can sack this creature too and give all your tokens indestructible. So if you're swinging with, you know, a bunch of these, you could sack him, give all your tokens indestructible, and then win the game. Beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, create a token. Sacrifice another creature, each opponent loses life, gain life. There's another pile of lose a life, gain life in here somewhere. Like I said, this deck might be a little too rich in ideas and not enough in execution. But they all complement each other, so I think all the too many ideas is not such a terrible thing. All right, when this guy enters, create a token. Whenever another creature you control dies, this guy gets pumped. So now we got all these things that we're creating that are dying. We've got some mobilize, so he's going to pump himself pretty naturally. Sacrifice another creature, create X zombies, where X is the creature's power. So again, you're going to lose Syr Vondum. He's a 20/20. You sack him instead. You get 20 2/2 zombies. Scrounge for Eternity. You can sacrifice an artifact, return target. This is my recursion stack. You can return a 5 or less from the battlefield and then create a lander token, which is what gets you another land. Return target card and all other cards with the same names from the graveyard to your hand. Bring back a small dude. And either create a 2/2 black zombie creature token or return something from the graveyard. So a little bit of recursion in case one of those big ones gets in the graveyard that we want to bring back. This is card draws, right? So something smaller than 3 comes in, 2 comes in. Whenever you cast your second spell, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on this guy and then draw a card. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died under your turn, which a lot of stuff is going to be dying a lot for us, you draw a card. Whenever the ring tempts you, if you choose a creature other than this guy, create a soldier. So you create Syr Vondum. Attack with the token every turn, draw a card every turn, right? Because they're going to block, they're most likely going to block your token. Quite a few enhancements, so I put in an enhancement tutor, right? So we want to be able to tutor for, I don't think we got there yet. Tutor for the thing that makes, where'd it go? Oh, it doesn't matter. Tutor for the one that buffs your commander, makes him a +2/+0, or the one that lets you put 2 +1/+1 counters on him, and it's so funny that I can remember all the text but not the name. That's part of the problem of my brain. This guy, if you control your commander, you can give something Myriad, which means he makes a copy for everybody else that you're attacking. So any of these on attack triggers that do stuff, like create more soldiers, would be great. Non-legendary only, so you can't use it on Syr Vondum. This one, however, you could use on Syr Vondum, right? So if you have the card out that makes him 4 power or greater, Myriad him, attack with him, the 2 that come in automatically die, so you can automatically kill 2 to 3 other permanents. So you can just swing with Syr Vondum, hopefully make him indestructible, and kill everybody's commanders. Just because his copies come in, they do enter the battlefield and then they instantly die because they died, and because they have 4 power, you can kill anything you want. This guy has Myriad. When he attacks, you can tap, for each opponent, you can tap 1 target creature that player is controlled. So he's got Myriad, comes in, creates 2 copies. Each of the 2 copies also gets to tap 2, or a target creature. So for every opponent, whenever this guy attacks, you can tap 3 creatures. Kind of crazy. Mobilize, we know what that does. They come in, they go out, right? There's stuff all over this place for whenever something dies. Well, that's something dying. Fabricate. This guy comes in, doesn't matter. Can either create a colorless servo or put a +1/+1 counter on this guy. Whenever another creature you control or put in the graveyard from battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. So this would make everybody lose 3 life, right? Whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield, like this, you gain a life. So you gain 3 life whenever this guy attacks. Exile another target creature you control, return it to battlefield under its owner's control. So you can bounce Syr Vondum, kill somebody's creature, and move on with life. Whenever this enchantment enters, create a token. We need tokens to kill. whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. Whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses a life, and then, of course, same thing. Loses 1, gains 1. These are kind of lowbrow finisher moves. So once you've pumped Syr Vondum up, because the game we were playing, I think he was like 30-30. Everyone was afraid to kill him because they didn't want to lose their commanders, but they could just chump block him because he doesn't have trample, doesn't have anything interesting. He has menace, but other than that, give him trample and lifelink, or flying, right? And if he's flying and they have flying creatures and you're just tired because the game has gone on for too long, you can sack him and make him unblockable and just push through. Final stack. I think this is more of a, this is the exile section. So if you want to take matters into your own hand and bounce Syr Vondum, you can remove 2+1/+1 counters from all the stuff that you've been +1ing, destroy a target artifact or enchantment. So just one of the only, I think, interaction spells in here to destroy other people's stuff. Mostly it's targeted around destroying your own stuff. Bounce your dude. Bounce your dude. And bounce your dude. Right, so 3 different ways to bounce Syr Vondum and bring him back into play. Like I said, the deck works great. I have put in a couple of the finisher moves. Really like Syr Vondum. This is an idea that came from Reminder Text. I'll put a link in the description. He has great budget decks. I love the ideas he comes up with, but I build them with what I have. So this is definitely not a budget deck. I think Cathar's Crusades is like a $40 card. And this one as well. It's in here, right? No, it's not in here. Anyways, the other one that gives your commander stuff. I don't remember where it went. I'm just gonna keep looking while I keep talking. Or I will just keep looking and not talk because I can't do 2 things at once. Is it in here? Okay, I give up. It's official. Anyways, if you like this kind of thing, like, subscribe, follow. Long-form videos tend to be on YouTube, so I'll put up a snippet talking about this on the other platforms, but check us out and subscribe on YouTube. We do all of our deck reviews on YouTube. So hopefully you like this kind of thing. Again, I'm not a master deck builder, but hopefully it gives you some ideas, just like watching Reminder Text gives me ideas. And hope to see you on the next one.